Duke found a way in the second half. They certainly rallied in a big way. They struggled shooting from the outside, did not matter. Now, what really stands out to me when I just look at the box score and I watch the game tonight, Duke 28 free throws as opposed to NC State's 7. NC State was 6 of 7, and Duke was 24 of 28. But they out-rebounded the Wolfpack 42-27. They did what they had to do. Raced by him in the second half, 74-64. CJ Moore, what say you about Duke's win and their sluggish start, but big rally there in the second half?
Oh, I think when you're significantly better than your opponent, sometimes you come out and maybe aren't as focused as you need to be. And I thought second half, the Blue Devils came out really guarded and, played more like we're used to seeing them play. Cooper Flagg took the initiative to take the game over. I do think NC State showed like some areas where Duke is maybe vulnerable if you play them with a lot of physicality. I think we saw KJ Adams in Kansas earlier this year. Like, it takes a very physical four-man to slow Cooper down. But I do think he has gotten better as far as his mid-range game, creating off the bounce than he was doing earlier in the year, and that's something we saw as this game progressed. And it was just too much talent from Duke. NC State started really hot and eventually cooled off.
Got a little worrisome, RC, early, a little worrisome.
No, it's a rivalry game, man. They played Duke and NC State the last 2 games, right? And guys know this. When you get into those rivalry, I know Carolina's coming up, but when you're playing these Big Four games, you're gonna get their best. And NC State, they played against 2 really good defensive teams. I mean, Wake and NC State get after you on the defensive end of the floor. They do it a little differently. State probably pressures you a little bit more. State came out hitting shots, man. They were bombing away. But what's so unique about this Duke team, and we've talked about point guard play and all this other stuff about them, is they are an elite defensive team. When they decide to lock in and they make the adjustments and they're to guard you and how they're going to guard you. I know they're playing more zone these last couple of games instead of chasing everybody around, but they held the state team to 27 points in the second half, and they're not going to lose many games like that. You're going to have to score to beat this team. They don't have to have the best offensive nights. Actually, their signature, what's so special about this group is it's on the defensive end of the floor. They're young. They're led by young players, but they're led by young players on the defensive end. And as long as they keep defending like that, they're going to be right there in the end. I think they're going. There's not a team around in the ACC. I've said this before. They'll get the best. They're playing these close games, but I think until they play someone, maybe Clemson gets them on the road. It'll be a road game. I don't see anybody coming into Cameron and getting the win. I just think they're too good defensively. They go on these big runs. Just a typical Tobacco Road Big Four game, in my opinion.
Well, and they showed CJ in the first couple of minutes of the second half that they weren't messing around. They just roared right back and made that a close game, and then ended up winning it by 10. Cooper Flagg tonight, 8 of 17 from the field. He was 11 of 13 from the free throw line, did a lot of damage from the charity stripe, 7 rebounds, 28 points. I want to ask you guys, so we are sitting here right now, we're getting close to February. So, we're well past the halfway point of the season. We're getting close now to where we can start talking about how many bids and seeds and all that kind of stuff from these leagues, and where's Duke going to be when it's all said and done. My question to you is this, and you kind of alluded to it, and I wanted to dig a little deeper a minute ago. You said something about it, but Cooper Flagg, when he first started playing for Duke, we were certainly excited to see it. That big game early on against Kentucky was a showcase game, and they lose that game. Then they, play Arizona, and he looks great. And, Cooper's been everything we wanted him to be coming out of high school. He's a highly recruited kid. He's somebody that everybody couldn't wait to see in a Duke uniform. But what have you seen from that first couple of games, really specifically Kentucky and Arizona and Kansas, from where he is right now? I mean, the talent's always been there, but is there anything noticeable that's different about his development, in your opinion?
I think it's his jump shot. I think he's progressed and is just more comfortable out there on the floor, on the perimeter from the mid range. He's obviously came in and was talented right away, and he could probably do these things before, but it takes a little while, I think, to adjust to the physicality, the speed of the game. I just think he's more comfortable getting to his spots. I think John Shire's probably done a better job as the season's progressed of putting in positions where he can really succeed. And when he has space and they do a good job setting some big 4 or 5 ball screens for him. When he gets to his spot, it's if he's making his shots, he's pretty tough to deal with.
Yeah, I think the game slowing down for him is one thing. I think he's seeing it. He's always seen the game really well as a facilitator and a player, but I think the game's slowing down for him. And I think they're just picking their matchups with him. If you try to put a big physical guy on him, they're going to run 4 or 5 ball screens on him. If you put a smaller guy on him, they're going to run a screen, get him in the post. If they want to dictate matchups, they'll have him come up, set a ball screen for one of the guards. So they're dictating the matchups. There's not a guy you can just put on him and say, hey, you're going to guard Cooper the whole time, because there's just too many ways. He's too versatile of a player, and there's too many ways. And I think they've kind of figured out how they want to use him and how they are using him. And more importantly now, they've seen all the defenses that you're going to try to implement against them. And by now, they've been able to see it, and they're able to make adjustments to it now. So he's just impacting the game, man, in so many different ways. He's fun to watch. He's running away with this. He's living up to the billing, and that's something that's not easily said for a kid who's coming in with all the hype that he's had. I thought the hype was there before his game had gotten there, and he's delivered it. He's exceeded the expectations, I think.
I've always wondered that, Randolph, when you have so much expectation. We talk about this with athletes all the time. I mean, at Texas, there's a Manning that's about to take over at quarterback for the football team, and that comes with a pressure. Cooper Flagg, the second he signed with Duke, and everybody knew that guy was the next big Duke phenom, it came with a pressure, and certainly big NIL and all that kind of stuff that comes with it. But what is that like? I mean, you're Randolph Childress, for God's sakes. I mean, big time basketball player. To deal with the pressure of everybody expecting you to be great.
Hey, I don't have that. I've never had that. Let me be clear with you. I've been around it. I'll say this. During that time,
what a crush with NIL.
Yeah. Oh shit. I wish I could get some of this NIL money. Don't get me started with that. I definitely wanted that. But no, I mean, you're around guys like that, and you see it. It was just different then. But I mean, listen, he's delivering. I think that's the main thing. I mean, a lot of guys are getting NIL money. He's worth the price of admission, and he's going out and he's competing his ass off, and he's worth it. And I think that's the biggest thing about it is you hear so much conversation about it with him. He competes every time he walks on the floor, and you see it. He's just getting better and better. So, teams have tried to attack him in different ways, and like I said, they just figuring it out. They're playing well. They have the nation's longest losing streak. I think they'll lose a game eventually in the ACC. Again, I don't know when that is, but they're getting tested. I think these are good things that come out of it. Finding other guys, other people are stepping up. But again, I'm a big fan of this Duke team. I think they'll be a number 1 seed. I think the only question is, will they be the number 1 overall seed when it comes to the tournament? I just don't think that there's enough to test them. I think they'll get enough conference games that'll give them a good enough look. I think they got Illinois sometime next month. We'll see them then. But defensively, it's just why I say I'm so high on this group. Their defense is going to travel. Wake was ready in game, and they just can't score enough. Like, how do you score enough against this team? I think as much as we talk about Cooper Flagg's versatility, it's Duke versatility on the defensive end that has them where they are. And like I said, when this guy is competing the way he is defensively and his versatility on both ends of the floor, it's not always flashy, but it's just efficient.